Hello and welcome to one and all. So we'll continue with the remedial measures for poverty and unemployment. So in the previous class, I explained to you the 4 measures which were adopted by the government, which were initiated by the government starting from 1970s to 1980s. But later, there was a slight change in the strategies adopted by the government. So more recently, starting from 2000 onwards, the government adopted some two-pronged strategy. So recently, so this is a, let me make it the 5th measure. Recently in the sense that starting from 2000, the government adopted a two-pronged strategy because whatever the programs initiated, the government continuously kept on initiating for different categories of unemployment in the country. So the government wanted to check and change the strategy and see whether it is beneficial. Okay, two-pronged strategy to remove the problem of unemployment and poverty. So what are those strategy? First one is what the government has to do, the expansion of sectors which promise higher. Yeah, if you're hearing the crackers, Diwali celebrations already started. Labor absorption. Now, the expansion of sectors which promise higher labor absorption. So we have seen that there was some problem we have seen, isn't it? Inappropriate technology. So the government was mainly focusing on only in the those sectors with the capital intensive. So the government has now concentrate on those which are all the sectors that can absorb more and more amount of labor force. See, for example, you take the industries. It will generate what you say, national income. Production will increase, national income will increase. But then in industry also, if the government is focusing on small scale industries, so those small scale industries, apart from increasing the production, increasing the national income, the small scale industries can absorb more and more amount of labor force also. Okay, so like that, the government has to identify which are all the sectors in the country that will give more and more of employment opportunities, higher labor absorption. Those kind of sectors have to be given importance, made investment. The expansion of those sectors should be done in the country. That is the first thing. And then apart from that, empowering the poor with, they have to be given required amount of education, skill formation by establishing several training centers in the country, and health. You must have heard about the vocational group, isn't it? Vocational group is totally employable. So those kind of education that kind of provide and skill and education to the people, immediately those students can be immediately employed after the completion of that education. So those kind of education should be given importance. And apart from that, the basic health and education facilities skill for should be concentrated by the government. So then they will, the poorer sections of the people will be empowered. So they will have their own, they will get that knowledge and they will get the skill so that they will be empowered and they will start getting more and more amount of job opportunities and their income will keep on increasing. Okay. And then afterwards, the government adopted policies that are suggested by Mr. Amartya Sen. So he won a Nobel Prize in 1998, isn't it? So he suggested certain measures, so which the government started adopting in the to remove the problem of poverty and unemployment. So let us check out what are all those measures suggested by Mr. Amartya Sen. Okay, so the first one is the adoption of a strategy of something called as pro poor growth instead of emphasizing liberalization and GDP growth. So Amartya Sen, he was always against this process of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So he always suggested that you give the basic, empower the poorer sections of the people. How do you empower the poorer sections of the people? By making them the education and health should be accessible, proper quality education and health should be accessible to each and every citizen of the country. So he suggested that the government is focusing too much of on growth in the national income and also this liberalization and privatization and globalization. So instead of doing that, the focus should shift to pro-poor. So whatever is needed to develop the poorer sections of the population. The other day I said the globalization is liberalization and globalization is bypassing the agriculture. So that is against the poorer sections of the population, isn't it? So if the country has to be pro-poor strategy, then agriculture has to be given the importance. So whatever is required to develop the poorer sections of the population, that should be given importance than giving importance to liberalization and GDP growth in the country. So that is the first thing. And the second one is directives, because pro-poor growth stimulating, they depend on agriculture, stimulating agricultural growth. So stimulate agriculture is not fetching that much, that's why they are poor. So do the agricultural practices should be done in such a way that the growth rate in agriculture keeps on increasing. I mean, even though India is an agricultural country, our agricultural sector is not contributing, it's not increasing more than 2% for a long period of time. And it is very, very erratic. Okay, because most of the farmers, they depend on climatic conditions. So it is very, very erratic. So that's one of the main reasons that majority of the people become poor. So something has to be done to stimulate the agricultural growth. For example, you can use, instead of using too much of pesticides and fertilizers and all, organic cultivation, organic manures should be used. So the organic, whatever is required to enhance the growth rate in the agriculture. So those things should be practiced in the agricultural sector. Okay. So one example is using the organic method of cultivation. Then the next one, increasing the productivity and job quality of the unorganized sector. So unorganized sector, so in our country, the unorganized sector component is much bigger than the organized sector. So government, initially what the government tried to do was, government was trying to shift all the people from the unorganized sector to the organized sector. That's what initially the government was trying to do. But then it's very difficult, isn't it? So many people are depending on unorganized sector. It is very difficult to shift all the people from the unorganized sector to the organized sector. Instead of that, what the government can do, whatever the rules, policies like minimum wages, proper working conditions, and whatever the policies we are having, proper timings. So whatever the policies which the government is adopting in the organized sector, the same can be adopted in the unorganized sector. So if that is done, then the productive majority of the people who are depending on unorganized sector, their productivity levels will keep on increasing. So that is the increasing the productivity and job quality of the unorganized sector. Then the next one is the improving the share of wages in the process of production. So how do we improve the share of wages? Automatically, if the country adopts the labor intensive technique instead of capital intensive technique, the share of wages will keep on increasing. The first point, emphasizing pro-poor growth. So if that is done, automatically the share of wages in the total national income will keep on increasing. So if that happens, the unemployment rate will decrease and the poverty will also decrease. Then fifth one, empowerment of the poor through education and skill formation, which I mentioned the first point, isn't it? Education and skill formation. Whatever the required, that is manpower planning. The current what skill is required, what kind of education is required. Establish that kind of educational system, establish training centers for that, and then give subsidized fees for the poorer sections of the population, so that they will get the training, they will get the education, and they will get empowered, and they will get the employment opportunities, and poverty and unemployment in the country will reduce. Then the next one is another most important, empowerment of poor through provision of better health facilities. So we have seen, isn't it, already the government initiated several programs like NRHM, NUHM. So like that, several programs were initiated by the government to provide better health facilities to the poorer sections of the population. Then another major thing is empowering the poor through provision of housing. So the all this Rajiv Swagruha and all that 2-bedroom houses and all the government is providing, isn't it, for the poorer sections of the population. So all these are to provide a housing facilities to the poorer sections of the population. And empowerment through skill formation for expanding IT sector. So many concessions and training facilities are provided to the poorer section so that they can learn that technique for expanding the preferences are given in all the training institutes and all. The preferences are like triple IT and all, isn't it? So the preferences are given to the poorer sections of the population. And most thing which is ongoing, providing employment through that MGNI, Mahatma Gandhi GP. Okay, so these are all the policies that are being adopted by the government now. And of course, because of all this, it is decreasing, the poverty and unemployment levels of decreasing, but the only thing is it keeps on fluctuating. It is not smooth decrease in both the poverty and unemployment. There are always ups and downs. The fluctuations are happening. Suddenly the unemployment rates are increasing, suddenly it keeps decreasing. Okay, so there is no, we haven't, the policies are all not still stabilized. But anyway, the government is going in the right direction by empowering the poorer sections of the population by adopting the different strategies. Okay, so this ends the third chapter. So if you find this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe. So until my next class, next video, take care. Bye bye.